And so why is gasoline going up? And it's been going up pretty rapidly. It's, even adjusted for inflation, it's like at a near 50-year high. Well, it's a matter of simple supply and demand. If you've got a lot of supply of a product and average demand, well, prices are going to go down because you've got a lot of supply. Conversely, if you've got limited supply and an average amount of buyers, then prices will go up because you've got fewer products available for the buyers who demand those. And so let's apply that to crude oil and the price of gasoline. First of all, gasoline, the cost of it is 60% crude oil. So as crude oil goes up, that's going to drive the price of gasoline. 60% again of the price of gasoline is crude oil. The other 40% is refining, taxes, and distribution. So why has crude oil been going up? Well, probably two main things. And to give a little background on crude oil, particularly here in the United States, we are the largest producer of crude oil and petroleum products in the world. Number two is Russia. We're number one. Yet we're the number two importer of oil in the world. China's number one, we're number two. So we're the largest producer, yet we are the second largest importer of oil in the world. Why? Well, one is we use more oil than we produce. So we've got to import it. Second is refineries are big, expensive operations, and they're set up to refine a certain type of crude oil. Well, we don't always produce the right kind of crude oil here in the United States that our refineries can refine. So we end up importing oil that our refineries can refine. So back to why is crude oil prices going up? The second largest producer of oil and petroleum products in the world is Russia. When Russia invaded Ukraine in February, sanctions were put on by Europe and the United States. Half of Europe's oil comes from Russia. 8% of our oil in the United States comes from Russia. So when we put sanctions on their oil, all of a sudden there's limited supply or less supply of oil, and we still have that same amount of demand. Again, when you've got less supply of crude oil, and again, crude oil makes up the biggest cost of gasoline, when you've got limited supply of that and the same amount of demand, that's going to drive price up. Now, even before Russia invaded Ukraine, gasoline was going up. Crude oil and gasoline were going up anyway. Why? Well, during COVID, demand was way down. Nobody was traveling, nobody's on planes, fewer cars on the road, less energy being used. And so there was a lot less demand for oil, the same amount of supply or a regular amount of supply. And so that started driving prices down for crude oil, prices down for gasoline. And manufacturers of oil and gasoline, oil refineries, they started slowing down production because they just didn't need that much of it. So as they slow down production, all of a sudden we come out of COVID and all of a sudden demand is shooting up. If you've been on an airplane lately, they are full. Airports are packed. So all of a sudden there's a big demand for oil, yet all of these manufacturers had kind of slowed down and their ability to ramp that up isn't at the same pace demand is. Because they can make more money now on a gallon of gas, they are ramping up production, but at the same time, they're also a little cautious about ramping up too fast. Because in the last 8 or 10 years, there have been kind of two real drops of oil prices, and they don't want to get caught in that again. Also, when you've got a real push for electric vehicles down the road, they also know at some point in time the long-term demand for oil and gasoline is going to be reduced. So refineries and oil companies are a little more reluctant to ramp up as fast as they might otherwise do that. And so oil companies are beholden to their shareholders to do right by their shareholders as well. So there's sort of this, some will call it a triple bottom line, or they need to generate a profit, but they also need to take care of people, and they need to take the care of the environment as well. So even before Russia invaded Ukraine, gasoline and crude oil had already been going up quite rapidly. So it's been a 1-2 punch. You've got sanctions on Russia oil, less supply, therefore prices go up. Also, more demand than there was supply even before the Russia situation was driving prices up as well.